There have been so many people trying to gain spiritual insights. They come to the trainings and they want to have better yoga practice or deeper meditations, and obviously in order to make their lives a bit more clear, fulfilling, however they want to be happy. So we get into some practices and we look at some techniques, and inevitably hours later, after the technique, after the practice, they feel like, but I'm still struggling with, how am I going to bring this home? Mm-hmm. What am I going to do to make this, this new experience a normal for me? And so what I've found over the years, when we investigate what is the mechanism that provides kind of it gives an opportunity for us to almost like recreate a previous identity. Mm-hmm. Even if we've had a very profound experience of who we are, even if we've been able to dive very, very deeply in a particular moment and have clear insight, there's this very strong tendency to just revert. Mm-hmm. And I've been exploring what that mechanism is, because for me, success is about long-standing actual evolution, like noticing when the pieces are falling into place more easily, or when our lives seem to be in a flow state. So when I've questioned people and asked what's beneath that, which is a very common sort of inquiry question, is what's beneath that? Mm-hmm. Inevitably, we end up finding some emotion. And the emotion is like a little trail of breadcrumbs, so we like to take advantage of that. And the emotion of being frustrated, for example, or afraid of the future moment when I will experience the same struggle, find myself in the same difficult interaction with my partner or my boss or family member. So this is the main reason that I got really interested in this, is watching myself go into very, very deep experiences, and then watch my patterns of how I identify with a certain perspective or a certain role or a certain belief, and being able to identify those in myself has made it very clear that most people seeking spirituality that I've met, most, I would say, are actually they're seeking a form of emotional maturity, actually. Mm-hmm. And spirituality has been a way to gain perspective, of course, on this life, and have less attachments to how we maybe demand it to be, because those demands cause a lot of suffering for us. Get attached, and then disappointments and obsessions and things like that. So the most important piece that I've found is that when we evolve in our early age of life, we normalize the environment that we're in by creating a belief system that accepts and includes that maybe a disappointing relationship, or a very challenging emotional interaction, or it could be a long-standing relationship of a parent that doesn't really recognize the child as being good enough just as they are, but mm-hmm. rather waiting for them to achieve something quite recognizable in order to justify giving attention, or really, really showing them affection. Mm-hmm. Oh, you got an A on your report card. Very classical, kind of, you got a high grade. Okay, then we get to have fun. Yeah. If you don't get a high grade, then I don't really put myself out for you as a parent or as a guardian. Yeah. So we have this kind of emotional ransom going on, and these very common, normal practices in a family dynamic create a belief system, and then it becomes a structure for our personality to make it in the world. So that person who is held very strictly to accomplishment, and not just accomplishment, but real, like, recognizable achievement, measurable achievements, are the prerequisite for happiness. Right. Because I'm only happy as a child when I have my loving parents or my guardians really showing up for me. Mm-hmm. So I immediately equate success with some level of contentment, fulfillment, happiness, safety, particularly as we are wired to notice the mood that our parents or our guardians are in order to gauge whether or not we're safe. Because if our guardians are sort of finding us unworthy of their attention, If you think about how we would have been back in the Stone Age, for example, when we were evolving consciousness of community and culture, there would be a real threat to being left out. You know, if I'm on the outskirts of the circle of that tight-knit tribe or community, then I would legitimately be food for a tiger, for example, if I was left behind. So it's been wired into us for many years, and you can see that we will do everything in our power to stay on good terms, like really good terms with our caregivers, so that we stay in their fold. So we will be accepted by them as part of the community, as part of that tribe. So it's literally a survival mechanism for us to normalize whatever it means to make them happy with us, because that's when we know we'll be either given food, nourishment, or be included and kept into the pack, held dear in that community or tight-knit family. So it's normal and natural for a child to literally change their whole outlook on the world based on watching the mannerisms of their parents, based on whatever their actions are. So if I do really good in school, parents get happy, I get a reward.
Right.
Later on in life, that becomes a personality trait, and someone would describe that individual as being driven, highly successful, right? And then we see these power, not power hungry necessarily, but power driven individuals who, if you would investigate very sensitively into their history, I wouldn't be that surprised if you found one or more of the parents were quite strict with when and how they received some affection or some form of real connection.
Yeah.
And I think 9 times out of 10, we'd find a very clear correlation between what they were taught is a deserving person of love and what wasn't a deserving person of love. And so these little belief systems then frame a personality for our following adult lives to unfold.